What's going on, all my fantasy basketball fans? Welcome to the Score Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm Waiver Wire Queen. As we approach the end of week 16, it is time to talk about 5 must-watch games, week 17 in the NBA. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see more great videos like this to help you throughout the season in fantasy basketball. Let's jump right into it. So I have 5 games that I have identified that are going to be really good games because of the playoff implications that some of these games may have due to records, through to the conferences that everyone is in, and also because some of these games have some of the best talent in the NBA and some of the top players in fantasy. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns at my Chicago Bulls on February 7th. Obviously, this game is going to be a really good game because you have the top 2 teams currently in the NBA, with the Suns being the top team in the Western Conference, and obviously my Bulls, the top team right now, number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Who would have thought the Bulls would be number 1 in the Eastern Conference? Well, they are. Both of these teams have really good teams. Well, with the Suns, they were on 10, 11 game winning streak, and then the Atlanta Hawks came around and ended up beating them. I actually had the Suns winning that game. Not expect the Hawks to beat them, but the Hawks have some good players, just haven't been able to put it together this season. Nonetheless, Phoenix Suns right now is playing like the team to beat in the NBA with the best record. Early on in the season, I had the Warriors as the team to beat in the NBA. They still, to me, have so much talent. They have more talent than every other team in the NBA. But the way the Phoenix Suns are playing cannot be denied. This game is going to be a very good game. Let's kind of dive into the stats for both teams and talk about some of the top players and some other key role players who will, show out in this game. Let's start with the Phoenix Suns, since they do have the best record. They're 41-10, and obviously number 1 in the Western Conference and number 1 in the NBA. Points per game, they are ranked 3rd, averaging 113.1 points per game. They're ranked 7th in rebounds per game, 5th in assists per game, and opponents' points per game, they are ranked 7th, only giving up 105.5. And when you look at that and compare based on what they're averaging as a team per game and what their opponents are averaging, you see why they have the number 1 team and they have a really good defense. Let's talk about the most important players. Obviously, you have Chris Paul, you have Devin Booker, and you have DeAndre Ayton. Those are the 3 top dogs, and those are their best players in the NBA, obviously, and in fantasy. With Chris Paul being traded to the Suns, it pretty much turned this organization around because the Suns weren't really doing much until Chris Paul arrived. Now, let's be real. They still had Devin Booker, who was a very good young player, and also DeAndre Ayton, another really good young player. And now you added this veteran leader at the point guard spot, and they've been able to put it together and be one of the best teams in the NBA over the last 2 seasons. When you look at Devin Booker having a very good season, as usual, and he's an all-star, congratulations on that nomination as an all-star. He's averaging 25.5 points per game, over 5 rebounds, over 4 assists, and he is shooting 44.7% from the field. On a fantasy side, he is going to get you between 39 and 40 fantasy points on a nightly basis. He is a player you most likely drafted in maybe between the second and 4th round, so second, third, or 4th round. And he's one of your starters. He's not a player you have coming off the bench. If you have him coming off the bench, you must be in one of those leagues with only like 4 teams. But nonetheless, he's going to produce from a fantasy standpoint. This is going to be a good game. The Bulls defense is average because they're ranked 17th. So I expect Devin Booker to have a very good game against the Bulls. I expect this to be a good game. Nonetheless, Devin Booker is going to play well. You can expect him to get his normal fantasy points and produce against the Bulls. Now let's talk about Chris Paul. Again, one of the greatest point guards of all time. He's very, very good. He's getting up there in age, but that has not stopped him from producing. He averages 14.9 points per game, 10.5 assists. So he's averaging a double-double, okay? Yes, you did not draft Chris Paul in the first, 3-4 rounds, most likely. But wherever you were able to draft him, it was a value pick, and he produces. Nothing like having a starting point guard averaging a double-double and shooting a high percentage from the field at 48.9%. And he plays solid defense. He gets 1.9 steals per game, so almost 2 steals per game. And he's going to get you between 38 and 39 fantasy points. And again, he's an all-star. Congrats on the nomination, Chris Paul. Keep on doing the damn thing, because he hasn't lost a step to me. He is still consistent and a player that will help your team win it all in fantasy basketball. And let's talk about DeAndre Ayton. You know, he was out some time. He is back. Just think, while Ayton was out, they were on a 10-game winning streak. So you got to realize Ayton stats: 16.2 points, 10.4 rebounds, over 63% from the field. They were on a 10-game winning streak with that type of production not available to them. So that tells you the team, and they're just well coached, and the players play very well and complement each other. So some of that chemistry, that has a lot to do with what they're doing. When you think about a team like BK, they don't really have the chemistry. So you see the difference in performance. And, you know, with BK, they got some other things going on. But again, chemistry is very important. It's not just always about the talent. And again, you see that with the Phoenix Suns. So with Ayton, he's going to get you between 33, 34 fantasy points. So these three guys will perform statistically. Nikola Vucevic for the Chicago Bulls is not a great defender. So I expect Ayton to have a very good game. All three of the top dogs for the Suns will have a good game. I expect this to be a high-scoring game, even though the Suns rank 7th with opponents' points per game. This will be a good game because the Bulls just have some very good players that won't be stopped. It's some other key players you definitely have to look for with the Suns, and some of these players you can look at in DFS, and some of these guys you may have currently on your roster in fantasy basketball. Cam Johnson is a damn good ad in DFS as well as fantasy. So if he's on waivers, he should not be on waivers. He's having a career year. He started showing some signs of consistency last season, especially during the postseason, and now his role is solidified and he's more consistent and he's playing very well. He averages over 12 points per game, shooting over 43% from threes and over 4 rebounds per game. And he's one of their role players, one of the first guys off the bench. He's a player that if you can pick up on waivers or even again in DFS, he will help your team because his salary is not going to cost you much and he should produce in this game. And then another key guy is Mikal Bridges. He has been playing his butt off over the last few games. Also, Philadelphia made a mistake trading him. They should have kept this young man. The most important thing I think about with Bridges is he's going to play good defense. He's going to probably guard Levine if Levine can go, and sometimes DeRozan. He's going to play good defense, and he's going to shoot over 37% from threes. He plays very well. He's averaging over 12.9 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 1.3 steals, and shooting over 42% from the field. So with him, defense and a solid percentage from from threes. So if you have Bridges and he has been producing for you as of late, he will definitely play well in this game because the Bulls are lacking wings, okay? With Patrick Williams being injured early on in the season and then just not having depth at that spot, and then with Ball out, I expect Bridges to play very well. And then JaVale McGee is another player for the Suns who has played very well this season. He's filled in nicely and he's playing very well. 9.8 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, shooting over 66% from the field. Very good at spot start and in DFS as well, because the salary is not going to cost you much. And then when you look at the Chicago Bulls, they are 33-19, first in the Eastern Conference. That's right. They are 8th in points per game, averaging 111.7 points per game. They are ranked 26th in rebounding, which is really not that good. But again, they are lacking with the bigs too. Outside of Nicola and, Williams is out for the season. They are lacking there. So they may need to make a move at the trade deadline, in my opinion. As a Bulls fan, I want to see them make a move and add another wing and another big to help that team out. We really need it. When you think about what the Suns, they're ranked 7th in rebounds per game. The Bulls are looking at being out rebounding this game. So they're going to have to find other ways to try to win this game. And it's going to be with their key guys. They are ranked 12th in assists per games, and they are ranked 17th with opponents' points per game, giving up 109.8. And again, I said that they were right there in the middle when it comes to opponents' points per game. Defense is not that great. They're average. They really need to improve on that because in the playoffs, you're not going to just be able to outscore teams. But again, they're having some issues with injuries and stuff. They'll be able to put some things together and improve. Let's talk about some of the big dogs. I'll first go with Lonzo Ball. He is out, had knee surgery. Hopefully he'll be able to get back at some point this season. He is very important because one of the main things they went and got Lonzo Ball for is defense. Just imagine if he was playing on, he would have been playing on Chris Paul and most likely Devin Booker. Okay. And he's a very, very good young defender. And he shoots the ball very well from three. So he is out. So we'll be missing his 13 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.1 assists, and excellent defense. Patrick Williams out for the season. He was injured early on, so he is not available to us. And also another very good role player for our team, Alex Caruso, is out. He's having a very good season. Lakers should have kept him, but at first when we made the move to sign him, I was like, what? All that money? But he has showed that he deserved the contract, and he has played very well. At times, the Bulls would have lineups of Caruso, Ball, DeRozan, and Zach out there at the same time, along with Nicola. So his 8.4 points, his energy on defense, and his 3.9 rebounds will be missed. Let's talk about the big three. We got Nikola Vucevic. He's averaging 17.5 points, shooting over 46% from the field, averaging over 11.7 rebounds, 1.2 blocks. So he is not the issue with his rebounding. It's just everybody else just not, rebounding. We don't have the depth at that spot to be a really good rebounding team. So it's unfortunate, but that's something that, again, we will address and should address at the trade deadline. He should have a very good game because, again, with Levine in and out of the lineup, I'm hoping he can go. He didn't play Friday's game, but hopefully he's able to go, and that would help us play very well, and we'll have our big three to go against the Suns. And then obviously DeMar DeRozan, All-Star, congratulations, voted in by us. That's right, having a really good season, one of his best seasons statistically, averaging 26.6 points, shooting over 50% from the field, 5.1 rebounds, 5.1 assists. Very good season. One of the best free agent signings all time by the Chicago Bulls. This was a This was a great move by the Bulls. And he's our closer. He's the guy I want to see the ball in his hands when it's time to score the winning basket, go ahead basket, whatever, when the game is on the line, whether that is in the fourth quarter or overtime. Crunch time, the way DeRozan has been playing this season, I want the ball in his hands. This was a great move, and he's going to play very well. I feel like this is going to be a very good game. The top two teams going at it. Zach LaVine has improved tremendously every season. When he first came in the NBA, he was just known for his athleticism and just dunking the ball. Well, LaVine has improved. He's even worked hard to improve on the defensive end. And congratulations on being an all-star. That's what I'm talking about, Zach. He averages 24.7 points per game, shooting over 48% from the field. Most importantly, shooting 39.7% from threes. Who would have ever thought that Zach LaVine was shooting almost 40% from threes? Not a lot of people, but he has put in the work in over the last 2 to 3 seasons to improve his game and become an all-star and a player that a franchise can build around. Most people was like, no, you can't, the Bulls can't build around him. No, they can, and they have, and it is working. Averages over 4.8 rebounds and 4.3 assists. And again, he is an all-star, okay? All-star. And then let's throw in Kobe White, averaging 12.9 points per game, and he's shooting 36% from threes. With Kobe White, he's going to bring energy off the bench, and he's going to score the ball. That is all he's going to do. He's going to score the ball. Given opportunity, he's going to shoot the ball. He's going to score the ball. And my boy, Ayo, who is starting for the Bulls since Ball is out. This was a very good selection, second round selection at the top. And I was thinking like, what? Who is this? He is proving everybody wrong. This kid is talented. He has been asked to start since Ball is out, and he has played very well. Most people would have thought it would have been Kobe White. No, it's Ayo, and I can see why. Shooting over 53% from the field, shooting over 42.7% from threes, season averages of 7.9 points per game over the last slightly month and a half, averaging over 12 points per game, a little over 6 assists per game. What I have watched and observed from Ayo is he's going to play his role. He doesn't have to be the focal point on offense because we have our big three. But considering we have a big three, he's still able to score the ball, rebound, assist, and shoot at a high percentage, which is why he is starting. He's complimenting those guys in that starting lineup. And this is good for him to get this playing time, because as we move forward in the season with Ball returning, we need players we can rely on coming off the bench to help our team. And he's definitely a player we can rely on. There will be times where him and White is going to be called upon, sometimes maybe in the playoffs, and these guys will produce. I say all that to say this, that I ain't going against my Chicago Bulls in this game. The Bulls going to win this game. We at home. The Bulls are going to beat the Suns. That is what I am talking about. I feel like we have more offensive weapons. Even though they are the better defensive team, we have more offensive weapons, and we won't be denied. Bulls going to win this game. Y'all let me know what you think about the Bulls and Suns. Who's going to win that game? Let's go to February 8th. Boston Celtics at the Brooklyn Nets. That is right. I'll say there are some key players who are not going to be playing. Obviously, we'll start with Kyrie Irving. He's not going to be available since he is playing part-time. He's not playing the home games. He's playing the away games. And then KD, he is still out. I'll say for both teams, in my opinion, I feel have been a disappointment with the Boston Celtics. To me, big disappointment with all of that talent. You have two of the best young wings in the NBA, and they just still haven't been able to put it together. A year or two ago, they were moving upward. Now, to me, they're moving in the wrong direction because they're, ranked 8th right now? They should be ranked higher in the Eastern Conference. Their record is 29-25. They moved up because, last week they were ranked ninth in the Eastern Conference. So they moved up slightly, and that's just because the team may have lost the game. But again, underperforming this season. And let's look closely at the stats. So for the team, points per game, they're ranked 20th with 108. Rebounds, they're ranked 4th, which is very good, and we'll talk about that. Assists per game, they're ranked 19th. And opponents' points per game, they are ranked 4th, giving up only 104.4 points per game, which is very, very good. So that tells me they have a good defensive team, and some of that is some of the players they have. Jaylen Brown is an excellent two-way player. Excellent two-way player. When I hear the alleged trade rumors, nah, they don't need to trade Jaylen Brown. They need to make it work with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Two very good young wings, and you should not break that core up. Just figure out how to get those two to play together and add the right talent around them. I don't think they necessarily have the right pieces, but let's look at it. So your top players in fantasy are obviously going to be Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Robert Williams III. He is finally healthy and playing very well. And I'll start with him. If you have him in fantasy, he's going to get you between 30 to 31 fantasy points on a nightly basis. He's averaging 9.8 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, and 2.2 blocks and shooting a whopping 73% from the field. He's getting his points around that basket. Very good player, finally getting his chance, healthy and playing very well. This was a very good pick for the Celtics when they drafted him. And if you picked him this year in fantasy, that was a great move. I talked about him early on before the season started as a player to have a breakout season in fantasy. And he should be a candidate for most improved player of the year. I expect him to have a good game against BK. And I'll talk a little bit more about why once I talk about BK, but Williams is going to have a good game. Jaylen Brown, all-star in my opinion, should be an all-star. That was a snub in my opinion, but nonetheless, maybe they'll get it right. But he's a young two-way player, very, very good. No, excellent, great, amazing defender. I'll say all of those great things. See, using great terms to describe Jaylen Brown. He averages over 23.9 points per game, shoots over 45% from the field, and is shooting 35.6% from threes, 6.6 rebounds per game, 3 assists, and 1 steal. And again, he is an amazing defender. He was out some time dealing with some injuries. Otherwise, I feel like his numbers would be slightly higher because starting the season, they were much higher, but missing time, things like that. I feel like he'll have a great second half of the season if he can remain healthy. He is one of your top dogs in fantasy, right? If you drafted him to be one of your starters. He's averaging between 37 and 38 fantasy points. I can see that increasing to 40 during the second half of the season as long as he can remain healthy. He's going to take it up a notch, y'all. So he should get his stats. I don't feel like BK has anyone on that roster who will be able to guard him or Tatum. And I'm going to come out with this bold statement because it ain't really that bold, but I'm going to say that the Boston Celtics will beat the Brooklyn Nets because 2 key factors. KD's not going to be available, and also Kyrie's not going to be available. So I'm going to say it before I even talk about BK. But let's talk about Jason Tatum. Congratulations on being selected as an NBA All-Star. Tatum, what does he do? He's going to rebound the ball and he's going to score the ball. He's a volume shooter, in my opinion, because his shooting percentages are extremely low. So that means to me, you got to shoot the ball a whole lot to get your points, which I'm not a big fan of that. But nonetheless, people love Tatum. Not a bad player. I just want him to improve on his shooting percentages because that will take him to the next level and just get a little bit better on defense. But nonetheless, he averages 25.9 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, which is very good because he's playing pretty much. They got him playing the power forward spot. They just throw all of their guys in there, and he's producing with the rebounds per game, which is very, very good. He averages 4.1 assists to as well, but he's only shooting 43% from the field and 32.9% from threes, which is not great to me. And again, you can draft him in any format, but know that you're going to suffer a little bit with the field goal percentages because they are very low and below average, in my opinion. But nonetheless, he's going to get you between 42 and 43 fantasy points. He's a player you drafted high as hell. He's one of your stud players, whether that is in a redraft or a dynasty league. If you have either one of these guys, Tatum or Brown, in a dynasty league, you have something very good. You have some great young building blocks long term for your dynasty league. These two guys won't be denied again against BK, because BK does not have anyone who will be able to guard them. Even if KD and Kyrie Irving was there, they don't have anyone who will be able to guard these two guys. Again, Celtics will win this game. And then some other key players to check for. Dennis Schroeder. He's one of their good role players, playing very well. He's going to just score the ball. He averages 14.3 points per game and 4.4 assists. He's going to get you 26, 27 fantasy points. He's not going to shoot a high percentage. So he's a player I would never, ever draft in a categories-based league because it's going to hurt your percentages. His shooting percentages are horrible. So in a categories-based league, don't even do it. But in the head-to-head or pretty much any points-based league, he is going to get his points, 26 points, because he's going to score the ball, whether that is of being a volume shooter. He's still going to score his 14, 15 points and get about 4 assists and he's going to help the Celtics because they don't even have anyone who's going to be able to guard him. So think about it. No Kyrie. Okay. And then you got Marcus Smart, who is a great defender. He's going to do a little bit of everything. He averages 11.5 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1.9 steals per game. And he's going to get you between 27 and 28 fantasy points. He's the guy who's going to do it all. And he's going to guard any and everybody. Hell, they may put him out there and he may try to guard KD if KD was playing. But KD's not playing. But again, with Marcus Smart, he's going to do a little bit of everything. So they have some very good role players, which is why I said they are underperforming this season, which makes me think that they may need to make a move. I actually like Smart over Dennis Schroeder. I would prefer to move him and keep Smart, but Smart has way more value. Al Horford, I don't understand why they traded to bring him back, but I understand they wanted to get out of the whole Kemba Walker sweepstakes. I understand that. I didn't think that was a good move to begin with the whole Kemba Walker signing, but nonetheless they did. Al Horford, he is at the end of his career, but he's still producing 10.7.4 rebounds, 1.3 blocks. That is tremendous. I've noticed that his shooting percentages are going down slightly, but he's not playing as much. And again, he's at that stage of his career where, it's getting close to the end of his career, but 10 and 7.4 in a block is very good production. And again, they also have Josh Richardson, who can play 1, 2, 3, and he plays very good defense. So again, they have another player who's capable of guarding Harden. It's going to be a Brown or Richardson or Smart type of night for Harden, and you can expect all three of these guys to be on him. He's having a very good career from the field, shooting over 45% from the field and over 41% from threes, and averaging a little over 10 points per game. So these are the key guys. Tatum and Brown and Williams will show up and show out. So you can be confident. Obviously, you start these guys no matter who they are playing, but I feel like they're going to have even better stats. So when I say Tatum is going to get you between 42 to 43, I expect that to be closer to 50 fantasy points. And with Brown, it should be over 40, and Williams at least 35 plus fantasy points, because BK just doesn't have the manpower right now to compete with the Celtics, which is why I have the Celtics winning this game. Let's talk about BK. Currently 29 and 23, 6 in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, when you think of, they have Harden, they have KD, they have Kyrie, instant favorite to come out the Eastern Conference. Well, they have issues. Kyrie's part-time. KD right now is out. And then the players around them are really just not that good. Patty Mills was a great addition. And then Nick Claxton is a very good player, but he's unable to stay healthy and stay on the court. I actually had him having a breakout season, but I mean, he is having a breakout season, but he's unable to sustain it and continue to put together because he's in and out of the lineup. And Joe Harris, he's been out for a while, but watching him last postseason, he just capable of shooting the threes sometimes because he ain't making them in the playoffs. But nonetheless, when you think of BK and those are the three guys, you think, oh, this is a no-brainer. Well, it is. It ain't, because they don't have all of their guys, and then their role players are just not that great. But nonetheless, BK, they are ranked 10th in points per game, averaging 111.4 points. They are 12th in rebounds per game, 8th in assists per game, and they are 19th in opponents' points per game, giving up 110.6. So you figure they are averaging 111.4 points and they're giving up 110.6. They're barely holding on to some of these games. And that means they're just a mediocre, average defensive team. And again, when you have Tatum, Brown, Williams, and your defense is average at best, you have some problems and you're not going to win a game. And plus, you don't have two of your top dogs. What a they missing with KD, one of the top 5 players in the NBA, one of the top 5 players in fantasy basketball, one of the best players in the world, one of the greatest players of all time at his position, one of the greatest scorers all time at his position. You're missing all of that, right? Which makes it harder for you to win games, even though you still have Harden. And then again, Kyrie's not there. KD on the season averaging 29.3 points, 7.4 rebounds, 5.8 assists, shooting over 52% from the field. And he's going to get 47 to 48 fantasy points on a nightly basis. So if you have KD, you drafted him in the top 5. If you didn't draft him in the top 5, he definitely was in the top 10. But I'm saying you drafted him in the top 5. And if you don't have that type of production, that is, one, irreplaceable, and you've taken a hit, and you can't look at anyone else on the Nets and say, okay, well, KD is out, I can pick up Brown and he's going to produce. No, those guys are not producing even half of what KD was producing. So they're a waste of time picking him up. And check out some of my videos on Waiver Wire ads, and there are some players who may help you. I'm not saying they'll produce KD type stats, but they'll be able to help you sustain, hopefully, and be competitive to compete against your opponent every week, especially in week 17. But that's huge to not have 47, 48 points. That's a lot in fantasy. That, again, you took a serious hit, but the BK took a serious hit as well, because you figure they were top 3 with KD in the lineup, and they have slid down to 6, and it's going to continue to be a slide. Harden didn't play the Friday, and then again with Kyrie, he didn't have a good shooting night Friday. Pat Mills stunk it up. They just didn't play very well at all, and you're going to see more of that until KD returns. But nonetheless, Pat Mills is still having a very good season. They're going to be at home, so I expect Mills to play better. He averages 13.8 points per game, and he shoots over 42% from 3. So that is very good production. And he's a player that you don't leave on waivers right now because the opportunity is there. And again, this is a home game, so there's not going to be any Kyrie. So there's going to be more opportunity for Mills. It's going to be Mills and Harden. Those two guys have been playing very well together. Mills his stats kind of suffer a little bit when Kyrie is in the lineup. Nonetheless, this is a home game for them. So Mills should have a very good game. Let's talk about Kyrie Irving, what they're going to be missing. Again, he's part-time. This is a home game, so he won't be playing. He's averaging 22.8 points on the season, 4.7 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1 steal per game, and he's shooting over 46% from the field. That's 37-38 fantasy points. So that is huge. And if you took a chance and drafted Kyrie Irving, you didn't draft him where you normally would have because he's only available to you part-time. And at the time, you didn't know if he would be available at all. So where you drafted him at ended up being a very good position based on his production and his part-time status. Friday night, it didn't work. He had a bad game. Okay, very bad game. But nonetheless, it happens. He'll bounce back the next road game. But nonetheless, BK is going to be missing 22, 23 points. So when you combine what Kevin Durant and Irvin would do scoring wise, that's like almost what 50 plus 55 points. That's a lot of points. That's half of what they do. They score 111 points per game. That's like almost half. That's huge. And then Joe Harris is out, but with Joe Harris, he was averaging 11.3 points per game. But with Joe Harris, what he's going to do is shoot threes, and that's it. That is what he does. He's a 3-point specialist in the regular season, but he's not playing, so you don't have to worry about him. And then Brown has stunk it up this season. If he is rostered, you throw him on waivers. You release him ASAP because he hasn't produced, and he's unreliable, and he's inconsistent, and he's more inconsistent than consistent. So you don't have him on your the roster. And James Harden should have a hell of a game. He's been having a hell of a season. Top 5 fantasy. If you drafted him, you definitely drafted him in the top 5, and you expect him to play very well. I don't care if Brown is guarding him or Smart. He's still going to get his stats. He averages 22.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, 10.2 assists, 1.3 steals. Shooting percentage is not that great, and he averages almost 5 turnovers per game, but it does not matter because he's damn near averaging a triple-double on the season. He will get his numbers. From a points-based league, he averages 48 to 49 points per game, which is very good. He's going to have a good game, but again, his shooting percentages are not going to be that great. However, it's not going to be enough, and I'll stress it again. The Celtics will win this game. And Nick Claxton talked about him. I'm not sure if he's going to play because he just got hurt in the game on Friday. So Williams and Claxton, these two young guys, it would have been a very good game to see those guys clashing. If Claxton can go, it will be a better game. But nonetheless, I expect Williams to still produce with a double-double. Claxton just came off a game against Sacramento where he scored 29 points, 10, 11 rebounds, 5 blocks. He had a monster game. That is the type of production he's capable of doing. Not 29 every night, but at least the 3-4 blocks per game, 12 points, maybe 10, 11 rebounds. But he's unable to stay on the court. Again, I ranked him as one of the top ads week 17 in fantasy basketball. However, Friday, he ended up leaving the game early. So hopefully he's able to go for this game because this is week 17. And if he plays, he's going to have to be an important key factor for BK in order for them to be competitive and potentially win this game. Don't think they'll win this game, but nonetheless, he averages over 9 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 1 block, and he shoots over 63% from the field. And again, what he did against Sacramento, if he is healthy, he is capable of being a double-double guy for them with 2-3 blocks. And that is production that they need. Once the postseason starts, BK is not going to be able to make a deep run with Kyrie only being part-time and not knowing about KD's health. We hope he's going to be healthy enough to play. And then if you don't have any other guys, the role players are not playing well, it's going to be hard because some of these other teams are well built and they have key role players who will be able to help them. You watched last postseason in the playoffs and how it was really KD and that's it. It cannot go like that this year. But nonetheless, y'all, I got the Celtics winning this game. Let me know who you got winning this game. Let's move on to February 9th. Golden State Warriors at the Utah Jazz. This is going to be a very good game. I always call the Utah Jazz a pretender because they have good seasons and then they get to the postseason and then they lose. You know, they had one of the best records last year in the Western Conference and they still ended up losing because I just feel like that roster is still lacking something. It really is. But nonetheless, let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. Still, in my opinion, the favorite to win it all. because they just have too much firepower. Their team is well built. They have endless weapons. Still can't understand why the Timberwolves would give up a first-round draft pick for D'Angelo Russell, knowing that your team is consistently drafting in the top 3, top 4. That wasn't a good move, but it was a great move for the Warriors. Obviously, I would take the pick too. Well, let's talk about the Warriors a bit more. 40-13, second in the Western Conference. They are ranked 11th in points per game with 110.9 points per game, which I thought that would be a little bit higher considering the firepower they have. Nonetheless, they are third in rebounds per game, second in assists per game, and they are second in opponents' points per game, giving up only 102.7. So when you're averaging over 110 and you're giving up only 102, you're playing very good defense, which is why if and when the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns meet up in the Western Conference Finals, it's going to be a hell of a series, y'all. It will be. But I'll just first, before I even dive into the stats, I'll just throw off some names that the Warriors have. You got Jordan Poole, you got Thompson, Wiggins, Green, Curry, Porter. Wiseman hasn't even played yet this season. You got Kuminga, Lee, Payton, Moody. They have a lot of weapons, and I'm sure I didn't mention that Kevon Looney. They have so many weapons, which is why I feel like they're the favorite. They're well coached too, and they play very well together. I will start with Andrew Wiggins, and I'll start off by saying congratulations for being voted in by us as an all-star. Shocking to me, but when you look at the season he's been able to put together, well deserving. He averages over 18.2 points per game, shoots over 48% from the field, over 41% from threes, 1 steal and 4.3 rebounds, playing very, 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 very well. And I'll say this right now. I believe the Warriors will win this game. Okay. Klay Thompson is back. Slowly, he'll be in much better shape. Conditioning will improve. Minutes will start to increase, but there's no reason to do that right now. You slowly continue to add and build off of what he's been doing. He's averaging 16 points per game, shooting 37% from the threes. Field goal percentage is one of the lowest so far in his career, but again, hasn't played basketball in 2+ years. Okay, he gonna be all right. Okay, Klay gonna be all right, especially come postseason. That's when we want to see Klay. What he just went off 6 straight threes in a game. Klay is Klay, all right? You'll start seeing more of that as we get closer to the playoffs, especially second half of the season. Let's talk about Looney. He's starting. He only plays, 21 minutes per game for them, but he is very efficient. Shoots over 55% from the field. He averages 7.6 rebounds and 6.3 assists. 6.3 points, I'll say, not assists, y'all. I had him on my list as one of the players to pick up for week 17 because a lot of teams are struggling with the center in fantasy, and you're looking for players who can start short-term basis, spot start. He's gonna produce his normal 6-7 points and 7-8 rebounds, which is very good when you're looking for a player to help your team. So check out Looney. Let's talk about Jordan Poole. 16.8 points, 3 rebounds, 3.4 assists, a career year. He's going to get his stats. He's building he was having 12, 13 points per game last year. He's increased those totals. Playing very, very well. Definitely one of their good role players and a consistent player for the Warriors. They have a hell of a team. They have a great problem, okay? Definitely, again, the team to beat in the NBA, in my opinion, even though they are second in the Western Conference. Let's talk about, obviously, Draymond. 7.9 points, 7.6 rebounds, 7.4 assists, 1.4 steals, 1 block per game. He's an all-star, shooting over 53% from the field. An all-star. He's going to get his numbers. This is one of those games where Draymond's going to get a double-double. No, he's going to have a triple-double. I'm going to go out here and say he's going to have a triple-double. So if you have him in fantasy, he should produce his stats. Steph Curry, shooting numbers are extremely off this year, but I don't care. He's still one of the greatest shooters to ever do it. And some say to do it. Whatever is your preference, he still is a great player. 25.9 points, 38% from threes, 5.4 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.5 blocks per game, and he's obviously an all-star. So congratulations to Steph for being an all-star. And he's going to do his damn thing. He's going to do Steph Curry type thing. They don't have anyone on the Jazz who's going to stop any of the Warriors' top guys. So I can see Clay 5 3-pointers. Steph going to have, 30 points. Draymond, again, I'm going to say he's going to have a triple-double. So if you have these guys in fantasy, you start them with confidence, because I just don't feel like the Jazz have the talent to stop the Warriors. And then when you talk about some of the other role players, you have Otto Porter, who's shooting a career high over 40% from threes. When he has been asked to start, he has played very well. I've talked about him various times throughout the season when other players were out for the Warriors and he's been asked to start. He has produced for you in a fantasy capacity. So if, say, Draymond wasn't playing or Looney wasn't playing, then Porter would definitely be a player to check for if he can go, dealing with some injuries as well. Wiseman has not played yet this season, so that is another thing you need to consider. Wiseman hasn't played yet this season. Very good, young, talented center. And then also, again, Kuminga and Moody are the future. They are the future. You've seen flashes so far this season, especially with Kuminga, but the future is very bright for the Warriors. And again, they will win this game. If it's a blowout, then Kuminga and Moody will end up getting more minutes and able to help your team. But if by chance it's a close game and then you had to decide between Kuminga and Moody, Kuminga is still getting the nod and seeing more minutes. But again, long-term in a dynasty league, Kuminga and Moody are players that I would have on my radar for a dynasty league, because at some point you're going to see the transition and you're going to see the exchange. And these are the two players of the future for the Warriors, with Wiseman as well. So those three, the future is bright with those young guys. And let's talk about the Utah Jazz, 32-21, fourth in the Western Conference, second points per game, averaging 113.6 points per game. I look at this roster and I'm like, where the hell is it at? Where is it at? But they make it work. They're ranked 6th in rebounds per game, 28th in assists per game, and I understand why. And opponents' points per game, they are ranked 13th, giving up 107.6. Not bad, right? We're just right there defensively, but again, they're going to be unable to stop the Warriors. Jordan Clarkson, he's only going to score points. So in the fantasy league, he's a player I would only look at in a points-based league. His shooting percentages are not good enough to me in a categories-based league. So he's not somebody I would look at all in a categories-based league. Joe Ingles, Torres ACL was out for the season, and he wasn't really lighting it up, doing anything spectacular. Mike Conley is at the close to the ending stages of his career, but he's still able to produce 14 points per game, shooting 45% from the field, over 43% from threes, 5 assists, and is still playing efficient and good enough to be one of their core guys. But for how long is the question you'll have to ask. And then that backcourt is just undersized. You got Conley and Mitchell in the backcourt. Undersized backcourt. So to me, that never will win you a championship in today's NBA, but nonetheless, still a very good regular season team. Hassan Whiteside is a player I've been talking about throughout the season as a great add. With Rudy Gobert being out, Whiteside is playing very well. He does not play a whole lot of minutes, but he's able to produce. He's kind of like Looney. We only give you a certain amount of minutes. It's limited. We're going to cap your potential based on the amount of minutes you play. But they're both able to produce. Whiteside, 8.6 points per game and 7.2 assists. He's somebody I would have on my roster. I'm going to pick him up in a league today because he is available. And again, with Rudy being out still, he may come back sometime next week. We'll just have to wait and see. Again, Whiteside is a guy. If you don't have any options and you had Rudy Gobert, then you pick up Whiteside because he's gonna produce. He's producing very good statistically. Okay, even with Rudy in the lineup, he is still able to produce. So he's a player that I would definitely target via the waiver wire. He's a player I would prefer over Looney. So Whiteside, if you can pick him up, you pick him up. He's playing very well again, over 62% from the field, I will say. And I expect him to have a very good game against the Warriors because even though they have Draymond, I still feel like Whiteside is going to be able to get his stats. He'll have a double-double this game, and he'll produce what he's been producing over the last few games. So if you were considering picking him up and starting him this game, then you do so. And again, with Rudy out, that's 16 points, 15 rebounds. That's monstrous. 70% from the field. Let's be real. He's only going to be shooting right around the basket, dunks, some layups. He's not going to be shooting no threes. He's not that kind of player. Right there in the paint. 5 feet, 2 feet maybe. 2.3 blocks. He's out with the calf injury again. Maybe he's going to come back for week 17 at some point. We'll just have to wait and see. But if he cannot go in this game, then Whiteside is definitely a great option for you, especially, again, if you have Rudy and he's not available to you. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, is the prize on this team. 25.5 points, over 45% from the field, only 34% from threes. I need to see that increase a bit. 3.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 1 steal per game. He's their guy. To me, if I'm trying to decide between Rudy and Mitchell, it's Mitchell all day, every day, 7 days of the week, 365 days of the year. It's Mitchell. He's going to show up and show out this game. Even though the Warriors have a very good team, Mitchell's going to have at least 30 points. He's going to do the damn thing. Do the damn thing is what he will be doing. And then I talked about Royce O'Neal as a player to kind of check for on waivers. He disappointed on Friday. And again, I did talk about the fact that he was very inconsistent, which made him a short-term ad, meaning it could be for one game, a few games. However, the opportunity is there for him with Ingles being out for this season. There are minutes there. He's given the opportunity, plays the minutes. He's just unable to produce. But his stats suggest that he should be playing better. He should be averaging more points. He shoots over 49% from the field, shoots over 40% from threes. The opportunity is there, and that's what I'm saying with O'Neal. The opportunity is there for him to produce. Prior to the game on Friday, he had 2-3 games where he played very well. Let's see if he can pick it up this game. He averages 7.5 points on the season, 5 rebounds, and a steal. Again, the shooting percentages suggest that he should be shooting a higher percentage. Just got to see if he can do it. Again, top dog in this game for the Jazz will be Mitchell. He is the guy. Bojan Bogdanovic is another guy. 17, 18 points, 46% from the field, and 38% from threes. He's only going to score the ball. That is his thing. He's going to score the ball. He's one of those guys who can get hot and drop 30, but it's hit or miss with him when it comes to that. But nonetheless, those are your 2 guys you should be checking for, especially if Rudy cannot go. And then you have the other role players surrounding them who will play very well. But I don't feel they play well enough to beat the Warriors. Let's talk about the Clippers at the Mavs. This should be a fun, exciting game on February 10th, right? Let's talk about it. And I'm going to go with to go with the Mavs in this one, y'all. I had to think about it, but I'm going to go with the Mavs winning this game. And let's talk about the Clippers, what they have. They have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard not available, which means you don't have your top two dogs. It's a struggle this season, but again, I'm very impressed with them. They are 27-27, which obviously isn't saying much, but they're 8th in the Western Conference. If you don't have your top two players, you would think that you would be what? 12th in the Western Conference. So especially with how many teams are very good in the Western Conference. So they have been able to hold their own. Lou has pretty much done a hell of a job considering your top dogs are out. They are ranked 25th in points per game, only averaging 106. And again, your top two guys aren't available. They're ranked 21st in rebounds per game, 18th in assists per game. They're ranked 9th in opponents' points per game, only giving up 106.9. Hence is why they are a 500 team, 27-27. They score 106.2 points, but they give up 106.9. But that's not bad being ranked 9th. So that means they are a very good defensive team. It's just they don't have their stars. So if you have you knew going into the season in a redraft that there's possibility Kawhi, he may play, but it will be so far down the line in the season that it wouldn't have been a great idea to draft him. Poor George was expected to have a career season and take on more of the load, which he was, but unfortunately got hurt. And if you had Paul George, like I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, so it's hurting not having him because he was producing 27.7 points, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He was their go-to guy. That's almost 45 fantasy points you're missing. You cannot replace that production. If you didn't draft Paul George at the end of the first, you probably drafted him somewhere in the second round. Like I did, I drafted him in the second round, and that's one of your starters. So that is a lot of production you are going to be without, which is one of the reasons why I have the Mavs winning this game. And also, if you are in a dynasty league, you knew that you wasn't going to have Kawhi's points, his talent, his star power this season. Reggie Jackson has been doing the damn thing. Said he'll have a very good season this year. He proved a lot of the haters and the Clippers wrong last season for having him in and out of the lineup, not playing him at times. Played his tail off in the playoffs, and he's playing very well this season. Shooting percentages are really not that great, but I don't care. He's averaging 16.7 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, and 4.1 assists. Right now, he is the guy that they have to lean on. And then there are several role players who have been helping out. Some have been inconsistent, and some have been consistent, and some we've never heard of, but have been playing well, like Amir Coffey, playing his tail off. Thursday versus the Lakers didn't have a really good game. He only had three field goal attempts, so you're not going to do much with that. But he's averaging 8.4 points per game, shooting over 46% from the field and 39% from threes. And he, to me, is seeing more minutes than Terrence Mann, because Terrence Mann was supposed to be the guy that we all talked about early on this year as the guy who would take on that role and be one of the more reliable players. But again, he's been inconsistent. And so Amir Coffey is seeing more minutes than him right now. So Amir Coffey is still a player I talk about picking up on waivers, whether he had a bad game against the Lakers or not. He is still one of the more reliable players right now. And as long as Paul George is out, he's a player you still rely on it and you play. Also, with Mann, he averages 10 points per game. He's shooting very good percentages from the field, but again, being very inconsistent, it's hard to rely on him. So you'll see some nights where he's playing 25, 30 minutes, and then you'll see some nights where he's playing 14, 5 minutes, and you're like, ooh, I'm going to stay away from him. I say stay away from Mann until he can show me 10 straight games that he's going to play about 25, 30 minutes. But when you're being inconsistent, it's hard to rely on you. Ivica Zubac was having a very good season, but he's out right now. He's averaging 9.6 points per game, 8 rebounds, shooting over 65% from the field. He's out, so he's not going to be available to them. But a wild card is Serge Ibaka. playing more minutes with Zubac being out. And when you think about Ibaka, you know that he's going to score, shoot a high percentage from the field. He's a stretch four. He can hit the three. He's going to rebound. He's going to block some shots. So if he's seeing more minutes, he's a player you can kind of monitor and keep an eye out for on waivers in fantasy basketball. And then Marcus Morris Sr. is a player I talked about picking up on waivers because he's having a really good season. He's been in and out of the lineup too, like a lot of the Clippers, but again, they are still able to stay right there within arm's reach in the Western Conference of hopefully making the play-in tournament and the playoffs. So he's averaging 15.8 points and 5 rebounds. Another player who's in the mix with them, Luke Kennard, 12 points per game, 43% from threes. Thing is with him, up and down, inconsistent as well. They have a lot of players who are playing the same position, and it's kind of like eeny, meeny, miny, mo at times. I feel with the Clippers like, oh, it's going to be this guy this week because guys haven't been consistent enough. And when you don't have your top guys to set some of these guys up who need players like Kawhi and Paul George to set them up, it becomes kind of hard because you're asking these guys to be shot creators and stuff, and that's not their role. But nonetheless, Tyronn Lue has done an excellent job with this team. And Batum is another player I talked about. But again, with Batum in and out of the lineup, if he's healthy and he's seeing the minutes, he's going to score, he's going to rebound, he's going to get you some assists, and he's going to steal the ball. But again, in and out of the lineup. So some of these guys I mentioned, you may not have them available because, again, being in and out of the lineup. So for this game, the only players I feel are going to be the more reliable players for the Clippers and for you from a fantasy standpoint is Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris and Amir Coffey. He has been one of the more consistent players over the last month or so. So those are the guys I look at and I'm like, okay, yes. I believe they just traded Eric Bledsoe, so I'm not even going to mention him, but they may have made a move with the Portland Trailblazers. So I ain't going to talk about all of that yet, but I don't feel like the players that they may have acquired are going to be good enough to, get out here on the court. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Maybe Norman Powell is, however, but again, I'm not going to talk about that trade. That's for another episode. But again, I got the Mavs winning this game. They are 5th in the Western Conference, 29-23. They're ranked 24th points per game, averaging only 106.3 points per game. Rebounds per game, 23rd. Assists per game, 16th. Opponents' points per game, they are 3rd, with only giving up 103.8, which is very good. That means they are one of the top defensive teams in the NBA, and they are led by the amazing, talented player, Luka. Yes, I'll start with him. Congrats on the All-Star nomination. He's averaging 26 points per game, 8.8 rebounds, 8.9 assists, shooting 44.5% from the field, and 1 steal per game. He's damn near averaging a triple-double. He's an exciting young player. This is one of the reasons why I picked this game. One, because you figure the Mavs are 5th and the Clippers are 8th. So this is about playoff positioning, right? Because 29 and 23 and 27 and 27. Not too far off playoff positioning, but also when you have a player like Luka out there, you want to see him. You want to see that star power, and you want to see his excitement because he's very talented. They also have Dorian Finney-Smith, who has been inconsistent from a fantasy standpoint, but he's able to help your team short-term spot starts. He averages 10 points and 4.9 rebounds per game, but again, inconsistent spot start type of player. Tim Hardaway Jr. was having a good season, 14 points per game, but he's out, had surgery on his foot. Jalen Brunson is another player. I remember picking him up last season in fantasy, and I was like, this kid next season is going to have a very good year, and he has. 15.8 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and shooting over 50% from the field. Knicks could have drafted him, but they didn't. Now they want to trade for him, right? Allegedly, but we'll have to see. But nonetheless, when you are looking at the Mavs, you are looking at Brunson, Luka from a fantasy standpoint, and you're also looking at Porzingis if he can go. Again, with Porzingis, we all know that it's all about health. Health is wealth. Availability is one of the most important things, and he's never available. Right? Well, he is sometimes, but just not enough to where you're confident in drafting him. And if you did, when he's playing, you're like, yes. But when he's not, you're like, oh, here we go with that again. But he averages 19 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, and he shoots over 45% from the field. And he's going to block 1.7 blocks per game, almost 2 blocks per game. Again, he is just in and out of the lineup. So he's not even a player I could say will be available because he's been out. Maxi Kleber has filled in for him. And when Porzingis is out, Kleber definitely fills in and plays very well. But he was even out Friday. So we'll have to see what they do. Reggie Bullock is a player who's seen more playing time because of the Tim Hardaway Jr. Injury. He normally shoots a higher percentage from threes, but this year he's not, but he's more than capable of hitting the threes, and he's been playing very well as of late the last few games. So he's a player that you may want to keep an eye on from a fantasy standpoint. Even though the Clippers are missing some of their guys, I still feel like this will be a much closer game because the Clippers show up regardless of who they have. They just do because they're well coached. And I expect it to be a good game, but ultimately I expect the Mavs to win this game. Luka's going to have a triple-double, and it is what it is. The Mavs will win this game, y'all. And let's talk about Brooklyn Nets at the Miami Heat. I picked this game on February 12th because this should be one of the games, right? And we get to see Kyrie Irving. So we're hoping that we get to see Kyrie and James Harden on the court again. The Miami Heat at times have been number 1 in the Eastern Conference. They're currently ranked second behind my Chicago Bulls, y'all. Hey, but they really have a good team and they're well coached. They have Spoelstra. He is no joke as a coach. He can coach anybody. I don't care who it is. You ain't never had to pick up a basketball and he can get you to the All-Star game. I don't roll with that. But nonetheless, Miami is 33-20. They are ranked 16th with in points per game, averaging 108.8 points per game. They rank 17th in rebounds per game, 6th in assists per game, and they are 5th in opponents' points per game, giving up only 104.8. They have the All-Star Jimmy Butler. Jimmy gets buckets. That's right. One of my Chicago Bulls, right? Used to be a Bull. But Jimmy's having another good year. Shooting percentages are very good for Jimmy. I am very pleased. He's shooting 48% from the field. If you have Jimmy Butler in fantasy, you can expect him to get his normal 41 to 42 fantasy points, maybe slightly higher because, again, I don't feel like the BK has anyone who can guard Jimmy. The biggest thing with Jimmy, he's been in and out of the lineup this season with some injuries as well. Hopefully he's able to go. I expect him to. He averages 21.7 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.9 steals. And again, he's shooting over 48% from the field. He's going to show up. He's going to play very well. He's going to be guarding James Harden. And he's going to make Harden miss some shots. He's going to make Harden miss a few because, with Butler, he's going to bring that A++ defensive effort like he does on most nights. So expect Jimmy Butler to produce what he normally produces for you in fantasy. I'm going to say that the Heat is going to win this game. It's a home game for them, and KD's not going to play, even though Kyrie and Harden should be available. Miami, much better team, better chemistry, and they'll win this game because KD isn't in the building. So it may not even be as close as what people think, especially with the Heat being at home. Obviously, Bam, all-star snub, and I'm thinking it's because he only played, 28, 29 games this season, but 18.1 points, over 10 rebounds per game, 36, 37 fantasy points. I actually drafted Bam in the second round in my fantasy league. Who did I go with first? I can't remember who I drafted first, but I went with Bam because I was like, he's definitely one of my build him out. No, okay, it wasn't in my league. It was in someone else's league. I drafted Luka in the first round, and I went with Bam and paired those guys together. So it's been a tough season because they both have been in and out of the lineup. But nonetheless, when they are in the lineup, they're clicking, and I'm winning. Like I've been doing over the last few games since they've both been back. But nonetheless, Bam, all-star snub, should have a double-double in this game. I'm going to say 22 and 12 for Bam, and he's going to shoot a high percentage. They just don't have anyone who'll be able to guard Bam. Tyler Hero is having a career year. Last year was off. He back on point. 20 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 4 assists. Thought his 3-point percentage would be a bit higher, but 37 is still solid. It's going to get you 30 fantasy points. Again, if you drafted him, you got to steal, especially where you drafted him at, because no one was expecting this out of him. Playing very well. Some say an all-star snub. I have other players in mind who are all-star snubs, but Bam is definitely more of the snub because he's the top, one of their top dogs. Kyle Lowry, in and out of the lineup, he's averaging 13 points, 8 assists, another bad shooting percentage from the field at 41. With Lowry, you know, he's getting up there as well in age, and he's there to help the team out. They have some other guys who have been filling in with him being in and out of the lineup. Gabe Vincent, definitely a player who's been playing very well. 9 points per game, shooting 39% from threes. And you also have Caleb Martin, who has been another one of their consistent players and a very good pickup this past off season. He's averaging 9 points, 50% from the field, over 37% from three. So he's definitely another good role player for them. Duncan Robinson's going to hit threes. Very good role player, averaging 11 points for them. PJ Tucker, another guy playing very well. Nice pickup, averaging 8.7 points, 5.4 rebounds, and he's shooting over 50% from the field and over 47% from threes. I expect the Miami Heat to win this game because they are home. They're going to have all of their guys, and they are a well-coached team, and they have better team chemistry, and that is going to be the difference. And also, KD is not playing. So with the Nets, again, they're 29 and 23, ranked 6th in the Eastern Conference. They are ranked 10th points per game, right? 111.4 points, ranked 12th in rebounds per game, 8th in assists per game, and 19th in opponents' points per game, giving up 110.6. Where you look at that, you're averaging 111.4, you're giving up 110.6, which means you're barely winning these games. KD, if you drafted him top 5. You drafted him to be your guy. This is my guy. First round, who you draft? I'm drafting KD. Top 5 in fantasy. Top 5 in the NBA. One of the greatest players to play the game and his position and scoring wise as well. And you don't have him. That's 47, 48, almost 50 fantasy points you don't have access to, and that hurts your team. There's no one who will be able to replace that on waivers. So you got to look for a player who can possibly get you half of that. And also understand there's no one on BK because you're not picking up James Harden off waivers because he's not available. But there's no one on BK who's going to fill in and produce what Durant has been producing for you in fantasy, who's available on waivers, okay? Because Brown has not been playing well at all this season. Patty Mills should be able to help BK compete in this game. He averages over 13 points and shoots 42.7% from threes, which is very good. He plays much better with Kyrie when Kyrie's not in the lineup. And again, Kyrie should be available for this game. So I'm expecting Kyrie to have a better game than what he did. It's probably hard to turn it on and turn it off. I don't play home. I play away. It's probably hard, but I guess when you are a professional like Kyrie, it is what it is. But Friday's game was disaster for him. But nonetheless, he averages over 22.8 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and he's still shooting over 46% from the field. and he gets you between 37 and 38 fantasy points. So he's a player, regardless of who he's playing against, you start because you're going to expect 37, 38 fantasy points, maybe even 40 out of Kyrie Irving. I expect him to have a much better game against the Nets. Joe Harris is out. When you have Joe Harris, he's not a player I would draft in fantasy. He's a player that I may see on waivers, and if he's having a good stretch, then I pick him up. Or if you're in a categories-based league, you may have wanted him for his 3-point percentage, but no, he's not a player I would rely on, but he's out anyways. And also, Nick Claxton, he is a player I talked about before the season early on that he would have a breakout year, but again, he's unable to stay healthy. He went off against the Kings for 11, 12 rebounds and 5 blocks. He's capable of a double-double. He just has to stay on the damn court, okay? Had him having a great game Friday. He ended up leaving the game early. I have him as one of the top ads week 17. But if he's unable to stay healthy, then he's not going to be a great ad because health is wealth. Availability is very important. On the season, he averages over 9 points, 5.6 rebounds, and a block, and he shoots over 63% from the field. If he is playing, that means he's playing more minutes, 25, maybe 30 minutes, and he's producing. So, again, with Claxton, if he's able to go, I expect him to have a good game. But again, that is if he is able to go because he has not been able to stay on the court. If he can stay healthy, he should have a good game and hopefully make this more competitive for BK. But again, I got Miami winning this game, and I don't think it's going to be close. Miami going to beat them convincingly. Miami going to beat BK convincingly at home. Y'all let me know what you think. Who you got, Miami or BK? All right, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And again, check out my video I released on waiver wire ads for week 17. Video and episode, pretty much. The episode was released on Friday, February 4th. So check out that episode. And consider those players. I talked about 10 players that I ranked in the top 10 to add for various reasons. And then I also recommended 10 or 11 other players that you should keep an eye on based on their situation. So check that episode out and make sure, again, you subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoy listening to the podcast, go on and check us out. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google. We are out here in the podcast world, in these fantasy basketball streets. Y'all be great. Enjoy week 17. Peace.
Thanks for listening to The Score Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to The Score for more fun and great advice on how to win at fantasy basketball. And if you've got comments or questions about The Score, send them to waiverwirequeen@gmail.com. The Score.